Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live. We're also on time. Wednesday, June 17th. We are here. Today's going to be a very big day. We got Kevin Warsh, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to be the new Fed chair. We're going to have the Market Open, as always, and then at around 2 p.m., 2:10 p.m., I'll be live for the Fed chair meeting, which will start at 2:30. We will get a decision at 2 p.m., and we will officially start a new era for the Federal Reserve, which I think over the past couple of days, markets have been a bit jittery to kind of figure out, what does this really mean? Can we trust this guy? What is he going to say? Is he dovish, hawkish? And so today we're going to have a lot to talk about in terms of discussing what ends up happening. Yeah, had to be early for Kevin Warsh. Had to be on time and early to make sure we celebrate Kevin Warsh's new. It's crazy, dude. We're like, Kevin Warsh is like, I bet most people don't know who the hell Kevin Warsh is, but all of us are like, dude, this guy literally, literally will determine the trajectory of our portfolios over the coming years, because he is going to be the one that sets the tone on if interest rates end up going up or down. He's not the only one deciding if they go up or down, but he will be setting that tone, and that tone's going to be important. S&P 500 up about 0.11% in the pre-market. We were red yesterday, and we'll talk about why we went red yesterday. We have a couple updates in the context of Trump, Iran, this memorandum of understanding, what's going to kind of be navigated from this MOU. But overall, trend has been up over the past 2 weeks, ever since that Iran war came to an end. Oil has been down. Nice to see this thing below 77 this morning, 76.65. We got some good macro data today about retail sales. And then obviously we got a ton of AI updates, some stuff around OpenAI that we'll talk about as well. And all of that will ultimately come to fruition when Kevin Warsh speaks, and the market's definitely going to have to then price in what happens. Usually on these Fed chair days, the first moves aren't really the moves that are the most meaningful. They might be the most aggressive, but they might not be the things that are the most trendy. Usually 3:30 p.m. Eastern is when the Fed meeting ends, and from 3:30 to 4 is when you get to see the market's actual reaction to it. So we might pump during the meeting, we might dump during the meeting, but those last 30 minutes a day will give us an understanding of how the market's going to close, and we'll be live to kind of see how that ends up playing out. I also did something new today. I actually went downstairs and got some coffee. I don't know. Today I was in a coffee mood. It's good. I don't know how you guys drink this thing every day. Like, it's okay. Usually I drink water every day, but it's not like I'm not like I'm dying to wake up and have some coffee. It's not instant coffee. It's coffee from downstairs. The instant coffee was disgusting, dude. I don't know. We kept that bit going for a while, but it was absolutely disgusting. Like, I tried to act like it was, it was drinkable, but it was just like, it wasn't really drinkable. It was disgusting, but we kept the bit going. Is it dark roast? I don't know, dude. I don't know what it is. I put some cream and sugar in it, so it's not black coffee, but that's probably going to be the only sip I take for the next 3 hours. Literally, it was just, honestly, I did it to just feel like I should be doing something in the morning in terms of going downstairs and getting something to drink, but that's probably the most that you're going to see me drink that coffee. I drink 6 to 7 cups a day. Dude, that's crazy. I could just never imagine that. Maybe I need to get older to become a coffee person, but could never imagine that many cups every single day. All right, let's get into it. A lot to talk about, a lot to get into. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. The Fed FOMC meeting, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, so it will not be in the morning. We'll talk about the implications of it throughout the morning, but 2:30 p.m. Eastern, we will get into it, and we're going to see what Kevin Warsh ultimately says. Better than a Red Bull? It might, yeah. I mean, the energy drinks in the morning. I don't hate energy drinks. Just in the morning is wild. But some of you guys like it, and it gives you the energy. All right, so let's start off with this MOU with Iran. We got an update on it, and of course, Trump said something to hedge his bets on the MOU actually becoming real. Here's what he had to say earlier today.
See you again.
Becky, that's right. This was the first time we heard from President Trump on camera today, and he was being asked specifically about that draft 14-point memorandum of understanding that we've been talking about for the past few days. And the president suggesting here that this is not a final document, that things could still be changing, and that if he doesn't like the way negotiations go, the U.S. and Iran could return to active war. Take a listen to the president's comments.
No, it's not final. It's a memorandum of understanding. And if I don't like it, we'll go back to shooting at them, dropping bombs on their head. If I don't like it, if they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head.
Guys, the president here severely undercutting some of the stability that he and his top officials have been trying to generate this week with this deal. The argument we've been hearing all week from the Trump administration has been that, yes, this is a bare bones document and it leaves a lot to be left negotiated. But what it got the U.S. and the rest of the region was a lot of stability here while they worked out the harder details. It was extending the ceasefire. That is still true. But the president, of course, saying now that if he doesn't like the way things are going, potentially even within the next 60 days, he says he won't hesitate to return to dropping bombs. Becky? Yeah.
So I think this is classic Trump trying to hedge his bets and negotiate essentially by his public statements by saying that if he doesn't like it, he's going to go back to bombing. Now, the 14-point draft MOU came out yesterday from Bloomberg. It's pretty much everything we've been talking about. The war will be over, respecting sovereignty. It is a 60-day MOU, by the way. So those 60 days are going to basically 2 more months of an extended ceasefire that will allow them to negotiate. So honestly, this MOU is just another ceasefire, if we're really being honest, but it's like, I would guess, a more concrete version of the ceasefire because there's some actual elements that they're negotiating that seems like stuck in stone. You also have the naval blockade going away. You also have the Strait of Hormuz opening up. You do have this $300 billion fund. It's a legit thing. Now, Trump is saying it's not taxpayer money. He's saying it's all companies that want to invest, which we're going to see if that is true, if there is any government spending right there. But if Iran gets sanctions relieved and they start to incorporate themselves into the global economy, I would imagine there's lots of companies out there in the world, corporations that would want to take access to the 92 million people that don't have South American goods or South Korean goods or Japanese goods. And so those companies would obviously be interested. I just don't see a world now where we go back to bombing. I think, again, Trump is saying that to say that, but oil markets don't think that's going to happen. Stock markets probably don't think that's going to happen. Honestly, the credit markets, if we take a look at this 10-year, this thing was pushing 4.75 3 weeks ago. Now we're at 4.4, much more manageable at 4.4. Still not good. Realistically, we need to get it below 4%. That's what, Trump said early on in his term. But it's definitely to the point where it's not as scary as people thought a couple of weeks ago. So I think the worst of it has probably been priced in. Obviously, we've seen equities be able to react in a more positive way. Now, again, the past week has been a little iffy because Kevin Warsh is speaking. Oil was a sell the news, and then SpaceX was a sell the news on a lot of high beta sectors. So like Micron, some of your memory names, although they did well on Monday, they kind of took a hit yesterday. Your Rocket Labs, your ASTSs, which ASTS had a successful launch yesterday, so that was good for them. But they also got sold off with SpaceX. And then in general, you got a lot of people feeling like SpaceX is just too aggressive, too fast. This thing hit 225 yesterday, now back to 208, closed at 201. I mean, it fell below 200 a couple times, then bounced right back up. Still a $2.67 trillion company, so still basically bigger than Amazon. And again, there's 4% of the float that's being traded with. So ironically, in 60 days when the ceasefire ends, that's where you get the first lockup starting to open up for SpaceX as well. So there will be a lot more supply coming onto the market. I don't know if the thesis that all that supply is going to tank the stock is exactly correct, because you just might have a lot of demand for people to buy it, but it definitely will be a lot more supply than what people are chasing right now. And as a result of that, along with the cursor dilution, which is going to be about another 300 million shares that they dump on the public markets, that would, potentially set up SpaceX to maybe not be able to hold this type of momentum. But you put all that together, along with the hesitation around Kevin Warsh, that's where I think you get markets that are a little bit jittery. So let's talk about Kevin Warsh. SoFi, by the way, 1804. Noto bought some more shares yesterday at 1805, 250,000 worth of shares. So Noto continues to be a buyer of his stock. And again, usually insiders buy for one reason. They think the stock is going higher. So that was nice to see. But the reason SoFi is up right here is because of this idea that, as Noto said on the podcast we did with him, he feels that the reason the stock has been dead is because there is not a path to rate cuts, and no portfolio managers in the country want to buy a stock that needs rate cuts to start to get valued in a more growthy way, which is, I don't think SoFi only needs rate cuts, but obviously that's kind of the main element that moves the trajectory of the stock. We saw the stock at 30 when we thought we were going to get more rate cuts in 2026, and then fall all the way back to 14 when rate hikes were on the table. If Warsh actually is able to set up a paradigm for getting the market to realize, he's not going to explicitly say we're going to cut, but if he implicitly makes the argument that we don't need to hike, or that inflation is transitory, or that oil coming down is really good for the Fed, or retail sales are strong, or that he believes in a deflationary environment because of AI, like all these different things that would imply him being dovish. which I don't know if it's a guarantee that he's going to be dovish because the guy has been a hawk his whole life. Now, granted, the way he's talked over the past 6 months makes me think he definitely is more dovish than not, and he feels that AI in and of itself is a macro tailwind that doesn't need the Fed to intervene as aggressively in monetary policy. But no one knows, right? So I think SoFi could have a great day today if Warsh highlights that we're going to actually see rate cuts in some capacity. I also think SoFi could just fall if the whole market is like, well, we don't know if this guy's actually going to give us cuts. Maybe he's not going to give us hikes, but if the cuts aren't on the table and earnings growth potentially in Q2 slows down a little bit or just isn't as high of expectations, and then you have oil kind of staying stuck at these levels, which maybe needs to go a lot lower for the market to be even more excited, along with the fact that the S&P is not at all-time highs, but basically there. That could put everything together to say maybe we need a breather, which is not a bear market. It's not a correction. It's not something that we saw 2 weeks ago when the labor market was so hot that the S&P fell 5%, but it could just be a red day. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be red or green after Warsh speaks. Usually it's a coin flip, but my bias is that he's going to be dovish and that stocks will like it. The question is if he ends up playing out that way. Trump also appointed him, so I think he'll be dovish. Well, that's the thing. I mean, would Trump really put someone there after complaining about all these cuts who's not in the bias to cut? Now, Rick Reeder, again, was like, I thought Rick Reeder would be the Fed chair because he was like very obviously saying on national television that he wants to cut. Kevin Warsh has never said that. So it was interesting that he picked Kevin Warsh, but nonetheless, if he picked him for a reason, then hopefully that reason has to do with him being more dovish. But we're just going to have to see if that ends up happening. Yes, Trump did appoint Powell. That is correct. But I think after appointing someone who completely went against them, maybe he wanted to pick someone that was more loyal. Again, I know it's an apolitical position, but at the end of the day, we got to see if Kevin Warsh actually is legit. A couple macro stats for everybody before we officially get into this market open. So ETFs, lots of money are going into ETFs. There's trillions of dollars on the sidelines, and there's money coming into the stock market. ETF flows have touched $1 trillion year to date. It is only June. S&P 500, VOO, VTI, you got a lot of ETFs getting this momentum. DRAM, memory, has taken 14 billion year to date of inflows. The fact that DRAM is up there with the Schwab dividend ETF is kind of crazy, but the amount of people that are betting and excited for memory and memory demand, I mean, it's just pretty incredible. So when you look at the year-to-date flow of these ETFs and you look at how much money is actually pouring into different elements of the economy, you start to realize, okay, so there still is enough excitement that is out there, even through all the different macro volatility that we've had. And that excitement is not really slowing down. Now, the one ETF that's not on here that I wish it was on here, but unfortunately has been a laggard all year is IBIT. So Bitcoin, kind of stuck in the levels that it's at, 64,000 right here, below 66 from yesterday. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the other thing about Kevin Warsh. If we get some rate cuts, maybe Bitcoin starts to heat up. You start to get some more inflows into IBIT. But until then, it's really been tech, memory, SMH, etc. That's been getting all the love. And until we hear from Kevin Warsh, we're just not going to show exactly how this officially plays out for all the other different parts of the market. What are the Kalshi odds on Warsh saying words like transitory, and what color tie he will wear? That's a good question. Kalshi, Kevin Warsh, Fed meeting. I mean, they have to have a market for this, I would imagine. They have if he's going to cut or not. They don't have if he's going to say specific things. I'll try to see if they have some more stuff about specific things. Obviously with Jay Powell, they had, will he say good morning, good afternoon? The thing is, we don't really know how Kevin Warsh necessarily speaks. So I think you might have to take a couple meetings for traders to want to bet and predict on what he's going to say. Which, again, Kalshi is the #1 app downloaded in the App Store for finance, folks. They launched Perps. They had 5 billion of volume in a week. The World Cup is driving unbelievable amounts of volume for them. They just raised at a $22 billion market cap. I mean, Kalshi is becoming like a cultural phenomenon in this country and globally in regards to betting and prediction markets. It's like becoming a real thing. Obviously, Robinhood's benefiting from it. You got all the other players that are benefiting as well, but Kalshi's like, it's the main one. And World Cup is just like a massive tailwind for them as more and more people are betting on it as well. By the way, shout out to Messi with the hat trick yesterday. That was pretty cool. Was pretty cool. I forgot how serious the World Cup is. Like, It's been 4 years, obviously. And now I'm realizing, dude, the World Cup is a big deal because you've got all these people in their countries that are just, so passionate about their country winning. And then you have these superstars. And so it definitely dominates a lot of attention. And from a market's perspective, it's super bullish for prediction markets because everyone wants to take a little bet on it. And that just drives tons and tons of volume for Robinhood, Kalshi, Coinbase, all those different players. So it was exciting. His first hat trick in the World Cup right here. All right, other updates. AMD got an upgrade today in the pre-markets. AMD continued to have a relatively good week. Bernstein, was this Stacy? This might have been Stacy, our boy Stacy, who's been a little bit bearish on AMD. Raised it to $600 from $525, maintained the outperform rating. AMD right now pre-market $521, hit $558 on Monday, then fell all the way back down to $505, now at $520. Talk about a stock that completely got re-rated. AMD was that stock that got re-rated, and now it just feels very unlikely that it's going to see the 300s or even the low 400s. I mean, it got to 430 and bounced really quickly last week. So if we have a market meltdown, maybe that comes down. If not, then might start to see some more momentum. Are you going to the New York Knicks parade tomorrow? I am not. Honestly, I'm not going to have time to go to the Knicks parade. I will be in New York tomorrow because we're recording an episode for the podcast. So I wonder how crowded it's going to be, but it will not be in the actual parade tomorrow. Okay, AMD got an upgrade, but OpenAI got some issues from a leaked report from the information. So take a look at this. Now, we don't know if this is exactly true, but this is getting a lot of people to once again wonder how serious are these business models and how meaningfully can they scale. Revenue for Q1 2026 OpenAI, $5.7 billion. They burned $3.7 billion in cash. They spent $8.6 billion in R&D. The gross margins are 39%, which really are not that impressive. And they have cash commitments through 2030 to spend $665 billion. The company projected it would burn $25 billion this year and $57 billion the next year. Now, Anthropic is not that much better. Anthropic has a bit more higher revenue run rate, but they are also burning a ton of cash as well. And, once again, it begs the question, how long will these companies be able to lose money in any meaningful way before people start saying, wait a second, what exactly is going on here? Again, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world if they can keep burning money, but growing the top line so much that they, become productive. And even if the token cost goes down, the volumes go up and that'll be okay. But then you have other people challenging them in a meaningful way, including the company that owns a $227 billion stake in OpenAI, which is Microsoft. So Microsoft, because of the rising cost of tokens, what did they do yesterday? They're shifting Copilot Cowork to usage-based pricing and may add a Microsoft-hosted DeepSeek model as a cheaper enterprise AI option. A lower cost model is expected in the coming weeks, as per Bloomberg. I mean, the fact that you have Microsoft, the company that owns a good chunk of OpenAI, not encouraging their enterprise customers to use OpenAI models because they know that the costs are so aggressive and they want to grow Copilot. And the only way to grow an application around a frontier LLM is by using an LLM that is relatively cheap to encourage the usage, just shows how relevant the token pricing has become. We've been talking about it over the past couple of weeks. Sam Altman said a week ago that he's going to have to lower prices dramatically, and he thinks Anthropic will do the same. If these companies don't do that, they're just going to lose their usage. And if they lose their usage, if they lose their usage, it's not like people are going to stop using AI. People will just shift to other models. And if that happens, compute will still be necessary. It's still really bullish for the neoclouds and a lot of the picks and shovels plays, but it's not bullish for OpenAI and Anthropic in and of itself. So one thing to keep an eye on, again, I think these companies are, going to be fine. It's just a question of making sure tokens are easy to generate. Now, the other reason these companies are going to be fine, the other reason the neocons are going to be fine is because take a look at this clip right here that I thought was pretty interesting. So this was the Bainstein CEO. This is an open source inference architecture model. Here's what he had to say yesterday to Altimeter Capital about how compute constrained we continue to be in the broader AI environment.
If you go out right now saying you want 1,000 GPUs, truly you're probably saying people are talking about Q2 next year.
Q2 next year, so 12 months out, maybe 15 months out.
15 months out. We have a cluster, a small cluster relative now. At the time it was big in one of these clouds that of B200s, Blackwell chips, B200s, like great chip. It's a bit old, but still it's an amazing chip. Our unit price right now is $263 an hour for that. And like, it doesn't matter what that is because I'll just, the relative piece of it matters more. That's up for renewal in October. And they came to us already in May and said 510 is a new price.
Wow.
For next year.
Double.
If you go out right now saying you want 1,000 GPUs, truly.
So this kind of gave me some indication for why Google theoretically could be paying the amount of money that they're paying for more compute with SpaceX. Now, I don't think they're going to be paying 300% increases indefinitely, but if Google has the demand, if we are, and we are as compute constrained as, you know, we keep seeing in the media, then theoretically these companies have to pay higher costs. The problem is if those higher costs are not subsidized and they pass it on to their consumers or to their users, which I don't think a Google Cloud or an AWS wants to do, which means they might just eat that cost right now because obviously they don't want their customers to pay it if the customers aren't willing to pay it, then it creates a dynamic of like really looking at these alternatives like a DeepSeek running on these local servers to be able to make sure that the cost of inference can go down substantially. As Hollis says right here, if competition lowers prices, they won't have enough to make a profit. This is the part I'm struggling with to understand OpenAI and Anthropic's business model because, you know, SpaceX lost money this year because of the acquisition of Grok. And that, I think that's part of the reason they had the $5 billion loss. There's obviously it's a very CapEx heavy business, but they're not projected to lose money until 2030. Like say what you want about SpaceX's valuation. They are projected to make a profit as early as the end of next year. It was just they had a lot of acquisitions, Cursor, all that stuff that created the net loss this year. OpenAI and Anthropic are not expected to make a GAAP net income profit until 2030 at the latest. And, you know, if their competitors lower their prices, how are they really? I think they're going to have to evolve the business model. I mean, OpenAI talked about this before of like working with a drug company and taking a stake in the company if they use their models to be able to come up with a brand new drug that scales to billions of dollars. Like, I feel like those types of partnerships and business models would have to be more intrinsic to the frontier models versus just charging per token, because the tokens, once again, are becoming commoditized. And if they're becoming commoditized, it's going to be hard to see them, you know, meaningfully, unless they end up in a Micron memory situation where, but there's a lot of tokens out there. You know, there's plenty of demand and there's also plenty of supply for the token. So it's not necessarily the commodity becomes so high in demand that they have pricing power, especially, you know, memory is more of a physical asset, whereas tokens are digital. But that is the underlying problem right now, I think, with the model companies, and we got to see how it ultimately plays out. Broadcom right there, that's up 2.6% as that continues to go a little green. SpaceX 209, that one continues to pump. Put in the chat if you traded SpaceX yesterday, bought it, holding it, selling puts, calls. Oh, the option volume on this thing was crazy, dude. 1.7 million contracts were traded on Mr. SpaceX yesterday. Tesla and NVIDIA were ahead of it. I think it's going to be Tesla, NVIDIA, SpaceX as the top three for a very long time in the options market here. Go Falling Knife, thank you for the $200 super chat. Appreciate you, man. A lot of you guys might know Go Falling Knife from last year. Good friend of the channel. Awesome dude. And appreciate you being here. You also got into the option selling game about a year ago and it's been able to make a ton of money off of it. So thank you for being here, man. Thank you. Appreciate it for the $200 super chat. Apple right there was up there. Intel, Netflix, Micron, Amazon, Microsoft, SoFi, Robinhood. They all got a lot of flow yesterday. Nokia, I know it was down yesterday. They announced a $30 million partnership in Pennsylvania to build a new facility. But look at this, 300,000 calls, 85,000 puts. Like the option flow in Nokia is just massive, and it keeps showing up in the top 20, even though price action has been rather stagnant. CoreWeave had a great day yesterday. That was up 10%. CoreWeave down a little bit in the pre-market. But you've got people ready to buy. And you've got people meaningfully expressing that necessity to buy via the options market. Institutional investors, they are also very bullish on U.S. stocks. Take a look at this chart right here. So this is from Goldman Sachs Prime Trading Desk on the flow. Last week, hedge funds recorded their largest weekly purchases of U.S. equity since November of 2025. This is the fourth consecutive weekly purchase. This percentage has surged 6 points since January, significantly outpacing the increase following the 2022 bear market recovery. And IT sector flows now account for 22% of total U.S. hedge fund equity exposure, near the highest in 5 years. I think obviously the reason this happened last year is because Trump basically announced the end of the war with Iran. He was going to bomb them on Thursday, Karg Island. By the end of the day, he said he's not going to bomb them. And I think that put together a pretty easy argument for people to start buying. I mean, we are up a lot from the low. We were at 725 last week. We're now at 750. I know we're not breaking through 760, but it's a meaningful recovery from those lows, basically almost at all-time highs. VIX is, bottomed. Also, tomorrow's quad witching day, so we have a lot of simultaneous expiration of options, futures, single stock ETFs, etc. tomorrow. But the big boys are buying. It seems like the big boys are indeed buying. Is England playing right now? You guys are talking about it. Are they playing right? Oh, no, it's at 4 p.m. England versus Croatia. Okay. I've been to Croatia before. I've been to Zagreb. That will be exciting. Those are two very passionate fan bases. SpaceX right there, 209. As that continues to hold up green. ServiceNow and Salesforce still red. I mean, once again, SaaS, ServiceNow almost below 100 pre-market. It made the pivot 2 weeks ago. All of SaaS was pumping. Microsoft was 470, ServiceNow was 140, Palantir 160, Zeta 25, Reddit, which actually has been doing well, diverging from general SaaS, but theoretically, if we still had those levels, Reddit would be 200 by now. Yeah, I think once again the semis took the wind out of it. SpaceX took the wind out of it, and it's one of those things where it'll test your patience. But if you're in the SaaS names, I think it's accumulate and be patient. I think the narrative that SaaS is dead, again, that narrative is dying down pretty quickly. I mean, I just don't think a lot of people still believe that. But we're going to have to see if that ultimately pays out. Also, the politicians don't believe it. Jonathan Jackson bought 50,000 of Microsoft. He is a representative. That just came out. And so you've got Microsoft, which is looking like it's going to go below 390. Also, you had Representative Matthew Van Epps. He sold, it looks like he sold everything. Sold Google, Amazon, Apple, NVIDIA, Meta, Microsoft, and Intel. Okay, so you have one rep buying, and you have another rep selling. Another rep, Richard Allen, he bought TSM, bought American Express, sold Accenture. These guys are like hedge fund managers, dude. This is like, it's kind of crazy. We have to report on what all these politicians are buying and selling, but nonetheless, that's what's happening. Retail sales this morning, it was bullish. The U.S. consumer, I don't know if you want to chalk it up to credit cards. Maybe you can, but my goodness, these were massive beats. 0.9% month over month versus 0.6% month over month expected, and then 6.9% versus 4% year over year. I don't know how consumers in the United States have so much money, because everything you see in the data says we are delinquent on credit cards, student loans, auto loans. Like, people are struggling, K-shaped economy, barely surviving, check to check. I mean, maybe all this retail sales is coming from the top 1% that have access to all the capital, but it's either that or buy now, pay later. Because in this type of market environment where gas spiked to its highest level in 3 years, and retail sales are up, and they're not just up a little, they're up significantly. I mean, it's incredible to show how resilient we are. Now, obviously, if it's just more debt, then eventually, that's going to have to be paid back, and we're going to see if that ends up having an impact. But man, it's pretty incredible to see retail sales not get affected, along with the labor market not get affected, which is part of the reason retail sales aren't getting affected. And that's why inflation was seen to be a lot hotter than expected last week. But if we get oil coming down, I mean, that would be a real golden confluence. You have retail sales that are strong, labor market that's strong, and then oil that keeps coming down, which gives you the pathway to cut, then earnings that continue. I mean, that is why I think Wells Fargo yesterday, they raised their price target basically to $8,079.50. And they said, we believe that we are going to see a reset in investor sentiment following the NASDAQ 100 sell-off and improving setup for CTA buying, easing macro risk after the peace deal, continued supportive liquidity, and a higher 2026 EPS forecast of $340. I mean, 8,000 S&P end of year, doesn't sound that crazy. Now, then again, I don't want to be naive. In the summer, you tend to have to deal with a decent chunk of volatility. I mean, the fact that the VIX is at the lowest levels it's been at in a year and a half is not the most bullish, right? Because VIX bottoming tends to be a top, VIX topping tends to be a bottom. And so, in the middle is kind of where you want to stay at, but we have significantly declined. I mean, we were pushing 60 last year. Now we're at 16. And so the question is, do we get any instability or volatility to kick us back up? And what does that mean for the actual equity markets? When does Warsh speak? 2:30 p.m. 2:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be live at probably 2:15, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. 2 p.m. we get the announcement. It's a 99% chance they're not going to do anything. So there's not going to be a cut, not going to be a hike. But we will still see what Kevin Warsh ends up saying. Perplexity CEO predicts Micron could overtake Meta. I saw that the other day. That was yesterday, right? Let me see if I have the quote of him saying that. You know, I don't think it's that crazy. When you look at the market caps, Meta's at what? Meta's at 1.52, Micron's at 1.2. Yeah, why wouldn't they? If Meta's sentiment continues to be horrible, I think there might be a world in which obviously the bottlenecks, like, I don't even think that's a controversial take. Now, maybe it's not going to overtake Meta forever, but in the short term, you can definitely see the picks and shovels getting a lot more demand and Meta being sold off.
Why is it not fully priced?
Because it's still the bottleneck. Whatever's the bottleneck will command the price. AMD is doing really well because CPUs became a bottleneck again. Agent loops, agent harnesses are all running on CPUs. The tokens are produced by the frontier models on GPUs, but whatever work, like let's say like Claude generates a coding script that decides to download 500 files from different websites and then, you know, munges a lot of data and transforms it in certain ways and generates a plot and then hosts it on a website that you can share it with your people. All that compute is running on CPUs. Agents are using CPUs more than humans, right? And so suddenly there's a rise in enterprise CPUs. And the beneficiaries of these are like Intel and AMD. So then they get to be the bottleneck. Like whoever's going to be the bottleneck will win. And so infra is the bottleneck right now because there's a lot of demand and we just don't have the supply. And so whoever supplies memory, SSDs for storage, CPU compute, suddenly these are all like interesting. Like they're more important than companies that are just building data centers and not knowing how to turn that into a valuable outputs.
Do you believe?
I don't think it. I think that's right. I mean, if the bottleneck continues to exist as long as it exists, I think those companies become more valuable in the short term than the Metas or Microsoft. I know it sucks to say that because Meta and Microsoft are fundamentally better businesses than SanDisk or Micron or Western Digital, but it is what it is, man. If we are in this AI revolution build out where we have to deal with bottlenecks more and more and more, like I did not expect this year to be a year where the money would leave all of the quality companies and go into all the bottlenecks. It's not to say the bottlenecks aren't quality companies, but the bottlenecks have become so unbelievably important because of the compute constraints that they became the winners of this year. You look at the top 10 companies year to date on the S&P 500, they're pretty much all photonics, compute, memory. They're in that space to get you the data center. They're not the Metas, they're not the Microsofts, they're not the Googles of the world. And you know, energy, power, all that stuff. And it makes sense logically, right? Like the Mag 7 have been kind of boring over the past couple of years. People are tired of just betting on the same names that they've seen of. So these new names coming out that are incredibly small in terms of market cap, even if they're not like micro caps, and also have the room to run and the earnings potential. Like you would imagine the money would flow into there, but it really took until April to see those numbers fully go up. And then again, you know, the problem was in 2025, they already ran like crazy. SanDisk going into 2026 was up 8x over the past year. So if you think it's hard to buy SanDisk at 2000, I mean, it was pretty hard to buy SanDisk or Micron, all those names after they had already went up 8 or 9x. I mean, just most people would look at those charts and be like, it's tough to buy a name that's up 9x in a year. But nonetheless, it was going to go up another 9x because of the amount of demand that was there. And I think if you saw that demand story, you know, you obviously benefited. If you didn't, and you took a chance on a company growing 33% like Meta, which theoretically should be worth at least $800 right now, it didn't work. And I think eventually it will work, but that's been the story of this year so far, which is, you know, it's why Wall Street's the greatest show on earth. There's so many different narratives, so many different variables, and all you can do as an investor is learn and go through the experiences of trying to understand how this is happening, why this is happening, take lessons from it going into the future. But I mean, everyone thought space names would rocket into the SpaceX IPO. They all dumped and SpaceX pumped. Like, it's just Wall Street always has a way to teach you something that you never knew. The one guy that I think is trying to teach us something that we don't need to know about is Evan Spiegel of Snapchat. I'll just let the clip play and then we'll talk about it.
Into the world and make it more human. And I think it's something that people are really looking for in this moment, where they feel like screens are distracting them. People are spending on average more than 7 hours a day staring down at screens instead of connecting with their friends and staying present in the world. And we think specs offer a totally new opportunity to bring computing into the world around you and help computing feel more human and more personal.
During your keynote, you took a jab at Mark Zuckerberg, and you said the folks up north aren't going to be able to copy these. But Meta right now is selling much lower price devices. You have the $250 glasses.
These glasses on Evan Spiegel's face, by the way, they retail for $2,195.
AI via audio. They have an $800 version of these. Yours is so much more expensive. Aren't you concerned about competing?
Well, I think you raise a really interesting point. Today, if you look at the market, it's bifurcated. You either have smart glasses, which are lightweight and wearable, but aren't really capable of much. They're almost more like AirPods or something, a phone accessory. And then you have headsets, which are very capable and immersive, but they're also clunky and hard to wear. They shut you out of the world with virtual reality. And specs occupy a totally new category of computing. They're both highly wearable, but also incredibly capable for immersive computing. So whether you want to bring a private display on the road with you, whether you want to play games together with your friends, or just use real world utilities like navigation or real-time translation, specs are incredibly capable of bringing computing into the world around you.
This is what they look like if we get a close-up here.
Looking good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Look, I've gone on this rant a million times at this point about the glasses. You guys know my take on glasses. I will say just one thing. Just one thing. First of all, the price, $2,000. Dude, if people aren't willing to pay $1,000 for the Vision Pro, I mean, these specs must be the most amazing new version of AI glasses technology for people to shell out $2,000. I mean, we're consumer brand, bro. Consumers are picky, dude. If they're not willing to pay for Apple, are they going to be willing to pay for Snapchat? And all the kids that use Snapchat, 13, 14 years old, they don't have $2,000. And their parents aren't going to give them $2,000 for a Snapchat. These are not the demographic that would actually buy the product. The second big thing I'm going to say right here is I think if the idea of glasses is to get away from the screen and then to connect with humans in the real world, the glasses do the opposite. If I'm, wearing these fancy glasses on my face and I'm looking at you and that I could be scanning your face, I could be checking your LinkedIn profile, I could be watching something on the side while you're talking, not even paying attention. I think it does the opposite of just looking someone in the face and having a conversation versus both of you wearing glasses and then being in this alternative world. Potentially, maybe you're looking at each other and talking, but you could always doubt that the other person might not be necessarily paying attention. And why would you be wearing the glasses if you weren't going to use it for some other purpose when you're in person with someone? So the whole thing is creepy to me. The whole thing is weird. It's not comfortable. It's not something that can bring compute into the real world in a way that allows you to interact with people on a day-to-day basis, which is what it would take to replace the phone or have billions of devices worldwide. I think in healthcare and gaming and certain elements, there's a use case, but not wearing it constantly. And I'm saying this as someone who wears glasses. I would not want to interact with someone wearing these clunky glasses. And I don't think it's about getting lighter or faster or more efficient or smaller. I think it's about the actual core architecture of the use case. And I don't think that exists. And I think they keep trying to tell us that it's going to be a thing. And they're like, well, the glasses will get lighter and easier. And, you won't have to have a battery pack and all this. And none of that actually answers the question, which is, do I want to interact in the real world by wearing those things? And does that actually connect me more to my companions? And if not, then, I don't think it's really going to do well. Now, Snapchat obviously took a hit yesterday, down 10%. Talk about one of the most mismanaged companies in the history of, I guess you can call it, consumer social products. This thing is down 92% over the past 10 years. They have not been able to generate a profit. Evan Spiegel has ultimate voting shares, so he really can do whatever he wants to shareholders. And their biggest wearables push, they spent $8 billion of R&D on this, resulted in a $2,000 thing that I just don't think people are going to pay for. I also wish Zucks would get rid of the glasses thesis as well. I wish they would stop focusing so much on it. They can still produce it and sell it. I just wish they focused on other stuff. I don't think the wearables are really relevant. Then you have Apple. Bloomberg reported yesterday they're trying to come out with AirPods that have a camera attached to them starting late 2027, and it would go out with the foldable phone. And I'm just asking myself, why do we need a camera on our AirPod? Is the camera going to look at the world and then the Siri inside your AirPods are going to tell you like that, you know, like you should be doing something, or like here's like how the world is operating. Like some of this stuff is just so weird, bro. It's just so freaking weird. And it's like, I think they need to focus on the AI use cases, not the hardware around the AI use cases, because a lot of that stuff just isn't that exciting. Tanner thinks it's a good idea. Yeah, even Steve thinks it's a good idea. Chris thinks it's a good. I really have been on an island on this for the past couple of years. Like I don't see the glasses vision. I can see them scaling potentially, but the scale to replace the iPhone or even get close to the phone itself, I think the phone will be the center of our AI use cases, not the wearables. And I don't know why I'm so biased against it, but it's just like there's something in me that says this is not going to be how the world interacts with AI. Maybe I'm having an iPhone BlackBerry moment, but I don't think it's going to play out. I really don't. I also think, you know, Meta's had how many Ray-Ban launches and it's never really taken off. Like, I mean, the fact that I gave Chris my Ray-Bans that I got gifted and he used them for a day and then stopped using them. Like that, like you see those anecdotal examples. And you're like, okay, this is not really something that's meant to have a meaningful impact in the world yet. If you don't think of it as replacing the iPhone, they make more sense. Yeah, but I'm thinking from a business perspective. I mean, Zuckerberg himself has said we need a new computing platform. They've all said, like, we need something beyond the phone. We need to be in a, you know, interactive world where we don't need to be stuck staring at our screens. Like, that's the whole point of the glasses. And I just think that's BS. I think we're always going to be stuck to our screens. And, you know, society, in a sociological way, we have to figure out how to not be stuck on our screens, like in important private moments. Like if you're at a family dinner, you shouldn't be on your phone. But that's more of a social thing. That's not, oh, if I wear the glasses, I can be more interactive with my family. It's like, no, you're still going to be using some type of product that's going to take you away from meaningful life experiences. I just don't buy it. Yeah, Neuralink seems like it makes more sense than these wearables. But then again, how many people want a chip in their brain? Even though, I don't know, man, if it chip in your brain, it sounds crazy, but I think it would have way more of an impact than just putting on some of the glasses. Broadcom right there, that's up 3%. SoFi up 1%. We got 3 minutes until this market opens. Again, Kevin Warsh will be speaking later today at 2:30. We'll be covering him live. Micron getting a little bit of a bid right there in the pre-market. Interesting stat for you guys. I thought this was pretty cool. Doesn't it really have to do with the stock market, but I thought it definitely says something about AI. Tim Ferriss is one of the biggest authors for self-help and how-to books, The 4-Hour Workweek. I think many of you potentially have read that book. He said in 2026, he is on track to sell 80% fewer books than he did in 2022. How-to books are getting crushed because LLMs seem to provide faster, cheaper, and more personalized advice. I thought that was crazy, but it makes so much sense, right? Why would you go buy a how-to book when you can literally go to ChatGPT and just ask it how to do something? So the era of content and the era of personalized expert advice that, you know, you would look to a Tony Robbins and all these motivational speakers or a Tim Ferriss, that's now in your pocket with ChatGPT. And I think that's just creating a lot more opportunities for a lot of people to, you know, be more productive in their own day-to-day lives. NVIDIA, are we up pre-markets? I didn't even check NVIDIA. We are flat 208. I know NVIDIA has been a dud over the past couple of weeks. It's kind of reminding me of Broadcom. Kind of both are just stuck. Hopefully this FOMC changes stuff. Maybe we can break above 215. But again, we will need a dovish Fed meeting. And we're going to have to see if that does happen. AMD 5. Wow, AMD. Look at, did AMD just get news? I feel like AMD just got news. Look at that, 529. 30 seconds before the market. I don't see any AMD news, but that just took a big run from 515 to 530. We'll see if we have any news right there, but there you go. AMD green candle, S&P slight green candle. Yesterday was a red day. It looked green in the morning, ended up dumping towards the end of the day. Let's see today how that changes again. I think the market's going to be very jittery until we get Kevin Warsh at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be live at 2:15, and we will enter into a new era for the Fed. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Wednesday, June 17th. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P opens with a red candle, 34 cents away from going red. Got to see if that can hold. Snapchat goes below $5, $4.97, down another 4%. Obviously, the street's not happy with those announcements from yesterday. Nvidia, red candle. AMD, also red candle, right from 530 to 524. Microsoft, red candle, 388. ServiceNow, 24 cents from losing 100. Red candle. Reddit, red candle. Salesforce loses 160, red candle. SpaceX, green candle, 210. SpaceX not stopping. That one's going up about 4% right there. Bitcoin goes red. SanDisk up a little bit. Broadcom up. No, that's a red candle. It's green on the day, but getting hit from the pre-market highs. SoFi losing 18. Nokia's up a little bit. Amazon goes red. All right, so a lot of your Max 7s and a lot of your semis either red or experiencing a red candle right here. Wow, look at this for AMD. This is crazy. Pump from 515 to 530, now right back down to 520. So that one getting hit as soon as the market opens. Tesla goes red. Shopify goes red. Dell goes red. Marvell went from 313 to 275 yesterday, now back at 291. This thing moves like $20 a day, up or down, but that's up 4.6%. Little red candle as soon as the market opened, but still green. S&P very close to officially going red on the day. Meta 587. It touched 600 yesterday. Was not able to hold on. Down 2%. Nabesis, are we green? We are green. CoreWeave, are we green? We are green. There you go. CoreWeave 120 up 2.5. Nebius up a little bit as well. Iren, are you joining? Iren is red, but it wants to go green. Nice to see the NeoCloud. There you go. Iren goes green. How about Cypher and Applied Digital? Cypher is green. APLD is green. Oracle should be green. Oracle is red because they sell software, so they go red. Nebius right there, 273. Nebius topped out yesterday at 277. So breaking that level, I think, would be nice to see. SPY, okay, you start to see a green candle flip in on SPY. Amcor is 93. Amcor, again, that 10-year contract they signed yesterday with TSM, helping them out a lot right there, 92, 98. This thing fell all the way back down to like the 80s yesterday as the entire market came down. So getting a rebound right here. And we just got to hope the rest of the market kind of holds up with it. Robina 98. That's nice. Rocket Lab 105. That's green. Tesla red. Poet red. Dell is red. Shopify is red. NVIDIA and AMD. NVIDIA still stuck at 207. AMD basically lost everything that it got in that pump right before the markets open. So maybe that was just an algo pump, but basically losing $15 right there. Micron, that's up 2.9% as well. It is a short holiday week. Friday, the markets are closed, so that adds to some of the volatility. Tomorrow, we have quad witching. That adds to the volatility. Obviously, we have the Fed meeting today. Netflix is down 1%. That adds to the volatility. So a lot of these green or red candles for the next couple hours, honestly, they're really not going to develop a trend until Kevin Warsh speaks, and that's when everything's off limits to see what he ends up saying. Bloom Energy, that is up 2.2%. Apple back to 300. Took it about a week and a half after WWDC was not impressive. Fell all the way to 280. Now back to the 300. SpaceX, are we pushing 215? We touched 213.80 and then went to 209. 22 million shares already traded on SpaceX. ServiceNow loses 100. Zeta loses 19. That means Palantir is probably in the 130s. Palantir barely holding 131. Dude, they are not being friendly to software. They're just not. They're just not. Look at Reddit. This thing was 185 yesterday, 168. It's like traders are playing with software up or down, but you don't have like real investors buying these names and holding them in any serious amount. Salesforce was at 205 2 weeks ago, 158. That got smacked. Wix, that's down about 1.6%. I guess you could classify that as a software name to an extent. That's down. SoFi trying to hold 18. Adobe almost losing 200. Dude, the money's going to the NeoClouds. It's going to CoreWeave and Nebius today. Look at that. CoreWeave. It was at 130 last week. Not last week. It was 2 weeks ago, I think. CoreWeave got to 130. Nebius got to 290. So both of these names not that far away from those levels. Reddit getting hit. CoreWeave up. Adobe down. Elf is had a good week. Elf almost 70. Retail sales today was definitely really good for Elf. It should be good for Nike as well. Nike is red, loses 45. Nike looks like has been stuck between 43 and 45 for a while, but that one's still getting hit. SpaceX 206 as well. Microsoft, are we going downtown? We are going down. Dude, every day it seems like we have an opportunity to pick up Microsoft at 387 right here. 380s, or at least in the 380s. It's quite incredible. Raytheon, that's up a little bit. Robinhood, that's trying to pump. She is trying. ASML's up 5.4. Okay, so some of the other semis. Wow, ASML, this is all-time highs. Yeah, I mean, like ASML, this is lithography, especially with what Elon's trying to do with Terafab. This matters just way more right now than a Meta or an Adobe. And it's like obviously a lot more of the money is going to be going to something like that. Not to mention they virtually have a monopoly on lithography. Palantir right there, 130.9 Adobe, 200.8. Microsoft continues to get softer. I agree. It it continues to get softer here. Every day is a discount on Microsoft. EOSC, they had some news yesterday, right? That's up 10%. A lot of these energy names caught a bid 3 weeks ago, and then they all dumped as soon as that labor report came out last Friday. And now they've been like T1 Energy was at almost $13. Now it's barely trying to get above $8. A lot of them had momentum, and as soon as that momentum got hit from the market, they kind of just went back to the range they were trading at, and now they're going to need a new catalyst. But they're at least somewhat green on the day. ASTS, successful launches last night. That's why that stock is up 4%. But again, ASTS was like 130 2 weeks ago before the SpaceX IPO. So that one definitely took a big hit. Amcor almost 94. SpaceX 207. 207. Yeah, it's Chop City. It is Chop City until we actually figure out what Mr. Kevin Warsh is going to say. Let's do a poll right there in the chat for what people think he's going to be like. I mean, I think you got to imagine he's dovish, but again, the markets have a very funny way of basically not giving you what you think would happen. So what do you think? Will Warsh be dovish or hawkish? Michael Burry bought JD. So he's buying some of the Chinese names that are out there. Is Baba pumping? Baba is still red on the day, a little bit of green candle. JD, PayPal, and Adobe. Those are his three new biggest bets in the markets right now. Oracle, that goes still red. CoreWeave, 121. Dude, let's see if we can get CoreWeave to 130. See if we can get them moving. Meta, 588. Snapchat continues to plunge, dude. Another 8% down as that continues. As that continues to go red. June says, I think we will like our new daddy. June, are you saying Warsh is are you saying Warsh is our daddy? Is that what you're saying? Spy 750? I mean, to be honest, yeah, I guess he kind of is. He's going to control everything in the stock market. But it's also going to be scary because we just don't know who he's like. Air Test Systems, they got a new order this morning as well. And that order is why that stock is up 14%. Oil, are we up? Oil, we were at 76. We're at 77, up a little bit, but still below 80, which is nice. Microsoft continues to go red, and then Meta continues to go down, 587.93. Fermi had a deal the other day. This was an IPO for data centers last year. They IPO'd at like 30, so they're obviously down a lot. As you can see from the chart right there, they got to 37. Now they're at $8, but they doubled from 4. So again, some of these data center plays that got left for dead just because their IPOs weren't that successful. If they come back with some real deals, maybe there's a chance that we get that to really move. All right, Hoodie, she's gonna try for 100 again. I just again, I think the market's not ready to let Hood stay above 100. I would like it to prove it today by actually getting a close above 100. And Warsh could help out. S&P officially just went red. Warsh could help out if he really signals rate cuts. If not, then I don't know. We've got to see what Hood can really do here. Again, they said June month-to-date volumes were the highest in history yesterday. So now they said that after laying off 10% of the staff. So, they are going to have some cost savings, but they also did say that their volumes are looking great. It's just, is the market going to think that's worth triple digits right now? Amcor 92.35, Apple 300.7. Trump is going to be meeting Modi at the G7 summit. It's not happening right now. 10:30 a.m. 10:30 a.m. So probably in a little bit, we will see Trump. Again, he talked this morning. The viral clip is when he said that the MOU is not final, and if he wants to keep bombing, then he will keep bombing. Also, Jensen made some headlines yesterday. He said we need new social norms in the age of AI. And a lot of people are wondering what he meant by that. S&P now flipping green right there, some 50.79. But that was also something he said yesterday that got some people talking.
New social norms. Back in the old days, you probably remember that cars.
Not that old.
Okay, well, back in the old days, people said that cars kill children. What is it about cars that would hunt down a child to kill them? Well, the reason for that was because in the older, when kids were growing up, they used to play in the streets. When I was growing up, I used to play in the streets. When cars came along, you obviously can't play in the streets. We now no longer have kids playing in the streets. We don't tell kids not to go play in the streets. And we have sidewalks, we have crosswalks, we have jaywalking is discouraged. And so all of that combination of social norms, regulations, safer cars, seatbelts, and all the technology that comes along with it. It's all of it at the same time. So I think you have to deal with regulation, technology. You have to deal with social norms.
What is the social norm that you think would make people feel the most comfortable?
Well, the first thing is that I would advocate that everybody use AI. Just go engage it. There's the free tier of AI. AI has.
Essentially, Jensen's argument was everyone should be engaged with AI so that we have social norms around how to use AI, just like we have social norms on how to use the internet, etc. Robina, there you go, break above 100. But there's still billions of people that are not using AI right now. Nebius, are we trying to go 280? Nebius 276. All right, Nebius and Hoodie today. These are your guys that are rocking. Robinhood, if we could break above 101, that would be really nice. We almost got there yesterday. I mean, we were there for a little bit on the announcement of the layoffs in the pre-market, then it dumped back down. But 100.2 is what you've got right there. Rocket Lab also getting a little bit of love. That is up 4%, 109. All right, so you're seeing a lot of stuff turn green. ServiceNow also back above 100. Zeta back above 19. Palantir trying to go for 134. Some of these buy algos likely kicking in. AMD 520 almost. NVIDIA 209. Marvell almost 300. I just think a lot of this is going to have to be really determined when the Fed actually talks. Microsoft still stuck at 388, man. Little bounce on 386, but still stuck there. What do we think is the announcement that Microsoft needs to really break out? I think it's them selling chips, which is what happened 2 weeks ago, and they broke out. I wonder what that announcement is to get them a 50-point candle. And I feel like it has to do something with selling chips. It can't be a software thing, can't be a Copilot thing, definitely can't be an OpenAI thing. I don't think announcing goggles. Microsoft sold their glasses business, by the way. This is another reason I'm so bearish on it. Even Microsoft was like, it was called HoloLens or something. They either sold it or their contracts, the long-term contracts they had were canceled with a variety of different partners back in 2023. I mean, it just was not like a real meaningful part of their business. Snapchat still down 7% here. Layoffs. I mean, yeah. But see, Meta did it and Street didn't even care. Dude, Meta said we're going to lay off 8,000 people. Street was like, we don't care. So I wonder if they would care if Microsoft does it. Okay, Nebius's all-time high. Why would I think Nebius's all-time high is 290? It's 279.80, which we just hit. Maybe I saw 290 in the pre-markets at one point, but there you go. You are basically breaking through right here. All-time highs. Seeing the 280 handle. Let me check resistance at 280. Micron, yeah, not getting the pump today. The neoclouds. Again, there's been a lot of bullish neocloud. I mean, this whole argument around token generation, efficiency of tokens, the cost decline of tokens, all of this is very bullish to neoclouds. And obviously Nebius and Corey are the biggest ones that are benefiting. 280 resistance here on Nebius is 15,000 shares. It's not even a lot. I could get taken out really quick. That's your 280 resistance. KLAC, this one's been doing great all week. That's up 5%. Keel, are we getting a move? Keel 623. That's up a nice 4.2%. Rocket Lab 109. Robinhood back below 100. Air Test Systems, that's up 14. And then SPY 751. SoFi actually getting a little bit of a move too. Nice to see. 1820. Noto did buy shares yesterday at 1805. 13,800 shares yesterday is what he bought. Mitt, do you like Nokia? Yes, I like Nokia. I just, I think the real dip's at 11. I've been saying that for a while. I don't know if we're going to get there, but if we don't, that's okay. This is basically 13.95-ish is where I bought. So 11 and more. The only reason I'm saying that is not because I think it's like super overvalued and I need 11 to be a good price. It's because this thing is up 150% this year, right? It's one of those names where you bought into strength. So if you're going to buy again, you need to really see a meaningful opportunity. And the worst we got last week was like $13.10 or something. So I like it here, though. I think the AI RAN story makes sense. Edge compute story makes sense. The insiders are buying a crap ton of shares. The NVIDIA partnership. I mean, Jensen literally said if he could invest another $1 billion into Nokia, he would. So I think that one's coiling up. And the option flow is stupid every day, dude. Like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of calls every day on that one. But it's up a lot this year. Same thing with Micron really hasn't. I would say a lot of people have started buying Micron around the 900 range, $1,000 range, because this is when people kind of give up and they're like, all right, I got to be part of the story. And notice it hasn't really made a move for the past couple of weeks because just so much buying has finally come in. There's like not that much alpha, right? Like the thing is up so much year to date. So I think earnings probably takes it higher, but it's also just like it's not going up 3% every day like it was in May and April, just because, a lot of people have figured out the story. Meta keeps going down 3% every day, though, because why not? Why not? 585 as Meta goes down. Where is Broadcom? 389. Okay, Broadcom creeping up a bit. Almost at 390. SAS still red on the day. SpaceX 204. Basically flat. Let's see if it cracks 200 or it's kind of holding this 203, 207 range. Yesterday just bounced around those numbers for the majority of the day. SoFi 1830. A little bit higher of a move. Again, those rate cuts are what the market needs. Mitt, what do you think of Wix? They're just valued at 12x ARR at base 44 alone. My only problem with Wix is my thesis originally when I heard about the stock was people will just build websites on Claude. And you could say that's a theoretical argument, but that's not practical. And then last week they came out with a message in their 10K and they said, our gross bookings are going to be down 20% this year, which to me was the empirical validation of that initial thesis, which is that people are just going to build it on the LLMs. I think it's a phenomenal business. I also think it's cheap. Like there's no way you could say Wix is overvalued. The problem is, like, once again, like if people are just building websites on OpenAI or Claude, and then the numbers from Wix themselves are telling you we expect to decline growth. And I can't think of any other reason other than people aren't using Wix in mass to build all their websites and applications. They're just using Claude and OpenAI. So, when you talk about SaaS being replaced, I feel like Wix is a prime example of a company that could be replaced. Although I feel like it's incredibly de-risked from the numbers perspective, and it is cheap at, one-time sales. I just don't know if the growth prospects are easily there if people build on Claude. Palantir trying to flip 134. 135, there it is. 135 in Palantir. Amid SaaS for SMBs is dead. Yeah, I interviewed Aaron Levy, the CEO of Box. That interview will probably be out over the weekend. And that's kind of the same thing he was saying. It's just like these small SaaS products trying to cater to small businesses. There's not a lot of juice there. Like if you're a small business and you need to build a website, do you really go to base 44 or do you just go to Claude and say, build me a website and then work with it there? I feel like it's just so much easier to happen there. And that's where I do believe there's like real disintermediation. Now, I don't think you replace ServiceNow with Claude, but there's a deeper moat in ServiceNow or a Palantir or a Salesforce. But some of these other smaller companies, I think, could get hit. Oracle 189 as that continues to flip up. Yeah, Shopify is, Shopify, it's funny when people say Shopify can get vibe coded. Shopify is back-end architecture to manage your e-commerce. So I don't think anyone wants to vibe code. You can vibe code a store, like a storefront, the front-end design. But at the end of the day, you want all your analytics and the actual processing of the payments, which is more fintech, to be done in a secure environment. That's not as simple as building a website. You could build a website on Claude, whatever, but you have to connect it to something meaningful. And unless Claude decides to build an internal backend tool to manage all the payments coming in, and there's a lot of guardrails and access and security you need. Also, you just need a lot of user interface that is easy for consumers to interact with in a meaningful way, and applications built on top of that. Shopify has a whole developer ecosystem they built for the past 15 years. Like, those are real moats. And you see it in their numbers. Shopify accelerated GMV and top-line revenue for the first time since 2022 consecutively in Q4 last year and Q1 this year. It's the cheapest it's traded since 2018. Still expensive. It's always been an expensive stock. But yeah, I think this company will be around for a long time. ARM, this one continues to move, man. Even with the declines, ARM right there, 416, fell to 315, or sorry, 350-ish last week. Just right back up. Warsh is at 2:30. He's not in the morning. He's at 2:30. I'll be live again at 2:30, and we'll see what Mr. Warsh ends up saying. JP Morgan, they are increasing their S&P 500 target. Wow, 8,200. Let the price targets come in. Let them come in. She says, I would struggle to argue for a very bearish scenario right now.
I think all the fundamentals we've seen, we just wrapped earnings season, it looks pretty good. And so I would struggle to argue for a very bearish scenario right now based on any fundamentals. Then you have the geopolitical picture clearing up a little bit more. And I think that's another tailwind.
Well, I don't know whether this includes $76 oil.
Yeah.
Because that's where we are today. So
our base case was oil moderating into year end. I still think there's going to be a risk premium built in there because I don't think we know enough yet about what this deal looks like.
All of these analysts, bro, all of them, as soon as markets start going up, well, we think S&P 8,000, S&P 7,900. Yesterday, Evercore, S&P 9,000. Why not? Dude, if we get a 5% drawdown, those price targets are going to flip so quickly. We get back down to 7,000, you're going to start seeing the bear cases just come out of nowhere. Which is why you have to take analysts with a grain of salt. You got to really pick and choose which analysts you can trust. But they can't be wrong. Like, if the market's going up, unless you want to publicly be wrong, you got to go with the herd, which is why so many analysts end up averaging the S&P 500 returns. Nebius right there, lost 280, touched it for a second, and then 271 just came down. Robinhood's second attempt at 100 today, lost the first one, 99.77. Again, if Trump starts a new war, we could see 6,100. I would hope Trump doesn't start a new war. That would not be fun. That would not be nice. Micron very close to going red here, folks. It's trying. Got an ugly red candle from 1,070. ASML, amazing day. What was the headline on ASML to get this thing to pump? 5%. ASML CEO was at a conference with the CEO of Siemens for AI infrastructure. I see this picture. The CEO of ASML was wearing some Nikes. Maybe the market liked that. It's a cool outfit. This is dope. Yeah, but other than that, I don't see another headline for why it's up 5%. VG, is that one red? That should be red. I think VG is a great hedge right now. If we do end up, below 11. If we do end up getting another oil issue, this is when you want to buy VG and just let it rock. And, even without a hedge, there's a long-term thesis on VG, but obviously it's not going to move as aggressively as some of the AI names. SpaceX potentially losing 200 here as well. But that is red as well on the day. AMAT, that's also making a move. Wow. Breaking through. Did it break through 600 today? Yeah, it's breaking through 600 today. That's an all-time high on Applied Materials. How much is this up year to date? AMAT is now up year to date 131%. $500 billion company. Goodness gracious. Talked about this a month ago on their earnings. But, once again, deep into the semis. This is kind of why, me and Jason were talking yesterday. What's the strategy for the stock draft, which will happen on Saturday? And once again, I think it's CapEx heavy. Either all these names are topping and they're just too aggressive, or ASML's going to 3,000. Maybe not tomorrow, but the trend is that the CapEx is flowing into the AMATs, the ASMLs, the KLACs, the Lam Researches, obviously the AMDs, Microns, NVIDIAs. I mean, SMH itself has just outperformed so many ETFs this year, up 2.35%. Is gold up? Gold is up a little. Silver's up a little. Gold, silver, Bitcoin not really doing much in this market over the past couple of months. SpaceX, there you go. That's red. Let's see if we're coming below 200 right here. Amcor got dumped. Did it again? Damn, again. I think the market's just struggling to keep this over 95, but the actual fundamentals of the announcement was good yesterday. Iran discussed the U.S. MOU with China's counterpart. Iran courts the Chinese investment in energy ties following U.S. agreement framework. Iran is seeking a deeper energy and economic ties with China as U.S.-Iran MOU opens new opportunities. Okay, that is super bullish. That is super bullish. The fact that Iran is going to China and being like, hey, we're done with this war. Let's get down to business. Let's see what partnerships we can create. I think that's very bullish. That's at least it's bullish enough to make you assume that Iran definitely doesn't want to go back to fighting a war, which means they're going to cooperate. The U.S. obviously doesn't want to do it either. And if they're getting ready to work with other counterparts like the Chinese, especially on energy, which is how Iran is going to make a lot of money. And if Iran is, the sanctions are gone, I mean, Iran's economy theoretically could be a very, very strong place to invest in. I mean, you're talking about an economy that has hyperinflation, basically zero GDP growth. You make them an economic powerhouse, and they have all this oil money. I think a lot of companies will be interested in investing there. SpaceX 201, a little bit of a move back above 200. Nvidia goes red. Did SPY go red? SPY goes red. Yeah, guys, I don't think any of these moves are real until Kevin Warsh speaks. Even Nebius lost the whole thing, 269. Like realistically, until we figure out who Warsh is going to be. Oh, what'd you guys say in the poll? Dovish or hawkish? 74% of you say dovish. Either he's going to be a dove and it's going to be a sell the news, or he's going to be a dove and it's going to be a buy into it, or he's going to be a hawk and it's going to be an ugly sell the news. Or markets are just going to be like, you know what? We need more data to figure out if this guy is legit or not. And maybe we don't get a crazy reaction, but everyone's expecting him at least to be a bit more dovish than not. Rocket Lab, that's up a little bit. 107 as well. 230 is when we hear him. 230 is when we hear him. How annoying is Amazon right now? Yeah, I feel like we've all analyzed Amazon to death at this point. Like there's no more analysis that is to be done on Amazon. It's either like you believe in it and you're going to hold it or not. Like, I don't even get excited anymore when I see Amazon updates. I'm like, it's Amazon. Like, we all know it's cheap. We all know it's underperformed the NASDAQ. We all know it's an incredible company. And we all know it can't hold any gains. So at this point, it's one of those things. I feel like you just buy it and don't look at it. It's honestly the same thing with Microsoft and Meta. Except Meta is in a more interesting scenario where the street's doubting Zuck's on his AI strategy. Amazon, I don't think the street's doubting Amazon. I just don't think the street wants to buy their stock, even though their strategy obviously has been working and AWS is accelerating aggressively. SPY loses 750. NASDAQ just went red. There you go. Nice little volatility before the Fed chair meeting. Nice little volatility before the Fed chair meeting. You know that Camillo's heavy in Amazon. Yeah, Camillo's heavy with the options in Amazon. And, he's willing to take the short-term risk on it. I think, again, the thesis makes all the sense in the world. It's just like, will it make the move? That's the crazy thing about, investing, right? You have a thesis, and then you have, will the thesis result in a move? And it's like, you could have a thesis on so many names that theoretically should be valued higher. But what makes investing special is when the move co-aligns with the thesis. And, a lot of times that doesn't happen. And then you're just kind of left waiting to see if it plays out. With Amazon, it's been a perfect example of the thesis many times has not played out in price action. So patience is like the ultimate thing that's tested right here. SpaceX 195. Oh, that is a red candle. That is red. As you're seeing, move down 196. We haven't, is this the lowest in the past 2 days? Yeah, this is the lowest in the past 2 days. If we lose 195, that's officially the lowest in the past 72 hours. But 195.13 is what we saw in the pre-markets. T1 Energy, that one's getting a little bit of a move right here as well. That's up 9%. EOSC. Okay, so some of your energy small caps coming into fruition. Again, all your large caps are red. Wow, NVIDIA loses 207. That's interesting. You're getting the small caps pumping and all the large caps taking a dump right here. It's a little weird. Then again, maybe the small caps are more bullish when we get a cut, if we do get a cut. Trump is going to speak in 45 minutes. Okay, so Trump apparently is having a press conference in 45 minutes. Did he just tweet that? Yeah, Trump. I will be doing a press conference in 45 minutes from France. I'll be then heading to dinner with the French and other European leaders. The trip was a great success, but what most people wanted to talk about is the fact that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon and the Strait of Hormuz will be open. Great numbers in all categories for the United States economy, with more people working today than have ever worked before. Over 19.1 trillion invested, with factories and everything else happening. But most importantly, recent stock market numbers are through the roof because of the settlement, and likewise, oil prices are tumbling down. Our president loves to see the stock market go up. That's it. What do you say? He loves to see the stock market go up. Here's a new home sales that we got for the month of May as well.
Now, this count is based on signed contracts. So that's people out shopping in May and inking deals when mortgage rates were actually rising again. Remember, they spiked higher at the start of the Iran war in March, then came back a bit in April, but then moved higher again in May. So maybe buyers are just getting used to all this volatility. Regionally, sales were up everywhere, but strongest in the Northeast and Midwest. The Midwest is, of course, where homes are cheapest. The Realtor's chief economist, Lawrence Yun, called it a late spring buyer rush, an indication of pent-up housing demand and consumers' acceptance of above 6% mortgage rates as the new normal. He also added that more supply is needed to moderate home price growth, which is still positive nationally. Sarah.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Diana Olek. Adding to that, we got some positive tones on the consumer. Remember how we've been talking about how resilient the consumer is and how they're holding up? Retail sales were out this morning, and it was a beat. The headline number, the control group, which goes into GDP, ex autos, ex gas prices. And here was the number, up 0.9%, up from 0.4% kind of gain in April. So this was a 2-month high. If you strip out autos and gas stations, it was still a 0.5% increase. The caveat on this report is it's not adjusted for inflation, so there's a little bit of an inflationary impact there, but most economists are seeing this as strong evidence that the consumer is handling the price at the pump okay. We saw a big jump, for instance, in online sales, which I think is reflective of overall demand. So that should help going into a Fed meeting where, David, there's There's some drama and intrigue just about how Kevin Warsh sounds, what kind of tone he strikes. Does he say anything about planned changes, regime changes around things like communication? But nobody's expecting any big change in policy. The only potential change we're expecting is to take out the easing bias in the statement, which had been there because the Fed previously was easing and cutting rates, and that's not expected anymore because we've seen inflation move up.
So what are you going to be listening for? And by the way, it's not clear how many press conferences we're going to get, I think, either, right? Isn't it possible he cuts back on the communication?
Takes away press conferences. Yeah. The other thing is we're getting dots today. We get the projections of where they think rates are going, and we're expecting the median dot used to have one cut for this year. We're expecting that to change. But just how he's going to talk about the new forward guidance. And
the forward guidance is also going to be important because if he wants to have less meetings, if he wants to stop sharing the dot plot, if he wants to not like tell the markets what the Fed is thinking of doing, SpaceX, by the way, really losing it here, hit 192. I don't know if the market's going to love that. And Kevin Warsh does have the ability to make those decisions as the chair. So those could also be things that throw off the markets potentially if they're not feeling that. The Q's still struggling to hold green. Amazon getting dumped, Meta getting dumped, Microsoft still getting dumped, Robinhood once again back above 100. Got a little weird divergence here. Some of these high beta names going up, other high beta names going down, like a Micron, or at least not really moving higher. SoFi, Hood, FinTech, loving it. Maybe rate cuts is what they're pricing in, and then Nebius right there. 274 as well. Should I sign up for Hood Banking? I just got the email. I like it. It's a good experience. You can wire money for free. Bank of America, they charge like $30 to wire money. So the wiring experience has been amazing. They need to add support for Zelle. I think that's like really important for them to do. But yeah, the actual product experience, I've had banking for a couple months, has been really good. NVIDIA 207, that one's still red. That one's still red. SpaceX. What do you guys think? Do they want to take her below 190? Or will the buyers let this thing pump back above 200? I mean, this is down. I mean, look, again, yesterday, right? Let's say you sold puts at like 195 when it was at 225. Boom. If this thing doesn't pump above, you're going to get assigned on those puts, right? Like the options here are just, I mean, the amount of calls that were traded yesterday, the 618, which is in tomorrow, 220 strike, had 50,000 contracts that were traded yesterday. Like people were betting this thing is going to be 220 minimum by Friday. I was like, you could get there in like another couple minutes if it just reverses, but like every dollar is so much market cap on this thing. Every dollar on NVIDIA is 24 billion in market cap. Every dollar on SpaceX is 13 billion market cap. So it's half of NVIDIA's market cap moved every single day or every single dollar as this makes a move. Okay, Hood got 101. Now we just need to hold it. Again, the rate cut stuff could be very bullish for Hood and SoFi here. Software starting to flip a little. ServiceNow back above 100. SPY still flat. Yeah, by Thursday, sorry, because markets are closed Friday. That's correct. CoreWeave loses 120, but still green. AMD, pretty ugly from the pre-market highs at 530 to 512, but still slightly green. Redwire, that's up 5. That quantum company, Quantinium, that IPO'd last week, up 9%. It's basically up, I think, 15% from their IPO price. So that one's still holding on. A lot of these other names are still red. The housing starts also weren't horrible. Obviously, rate cuts will help continue them. It was 3.8%, and then pending home sales was 2.1. Street thought it would be 2%, so it was a little bit of a beat. SanDisk loses 2,000. That goes red. Trump is live with Modi. Okay, let's see. The other conference he's having in 45 minutes to go over the MOU. All right, so we got 2 different appearances then by Trump. Okay, here it is with Modi.
Global maritime trade routes, including the Strait of Hormuz, and their safety is of utmost importance to us.
एक्सेलेंसी, समझौते के लिए शांति के प्रयासों में आपने भरपूर प्रयास किया है. मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि समझौते में सीफेयर की सुरक्षा भी सुनिश्चित होगी और उसको प्राथमिकता मिलेगी।
Mr. President, you made tremendous efforts towards reaching this understanding and this agreement, and I'm confident that the issue of seafarers will receive the highest priority during the implementation of this agreement.
Excellency.
All right, we'll go back when Trump starts talking, or if he gets Q&A, because we're not there yet. But I don't think he's going to say anything that important with the Indian PM. That press conference he has in 45 minutes probably will have something different to look at.
Consumers actually been spending across all the different income cohorts. So I think that shows that maybe we politically do not like where the level of pricing is. But the fact is wage gains are there. As you pointed out, the stock market gains are there, and that continues to fuel spending.
That's a good, it's a decent consumer story. So as far as the market, where do you feel like that's accurately reflected in the price? Because we focus so much on just the AI stocks and the chips, which, but you know, and as far as cyclical groups which have lagged, what do you think? Is there opportunity?
I think there's an opportunity for a catch up there for sure, because it's been all about semiconductors, especially as we rotated out of energy into semiconductors. But, you know, if we don't have to worry about the level of interest rates or them going up, we don't have to worry about the level of inflation, then actually the level of interest rates in the economy can go down. And we have seen that across the curve. So that is obviously a big tailwind for some of the cyclical sectors that you pointed out.
And consumer discretionary are both negative year to date.
That's right. I would also add to that mix real estate and data centers. If you think about kind of the long duration assets and who actually benefits the most from taking away that hawkish bias, it's something like data centers, because it is kind of like a long-term bond with inflation pass-throughs. And all of a sudden that some of the decline in interest rates can pass its way through to the cap rates. The cap rate is lower, all things equal, the price of a data center may be higher. So that's just one example of how some of the interest rate sensitive sectors may benefit. So I do absolutely think there's a catch-up trade there. And to your point, consumer discretionary started the year out of the gate so strong, so positive, and obviously that's not been the case for the last few months. But
American missiles.
They would like to be able to do that. We'll take a look at it. They have asked about it. Steve,
how close are you to a U.S.-India trade deal?
Very close. We've been there for a little while, and he's a very tough negotiator. He's one of the toughest, actually. So you look at this man. I'll give you a lesson. He's the most beautiful looking man. He looks so nice. He's like an angel. But actually, he's as tough as he's a killer. I don't want to, he's that killer. He's as tough as they come. But he looks so good. So he gets you by surprise. But there's few people like this. People say, he's such a nice man. I said, no, he's very tough. He's a tough trader. And he loves the Indian people, but he also loves the USA. We had Howdy Modi in Houston, remember? And the stadium was full. Right, remember?
He did not say Trump in India.
That was great. And we'll be going to India sometime in the future.
President Trump, when will you go to India, and how do you see Quad as well? This is a grouping that was started under your first term, and this is a grouping that all the four countries are looking forward to.
Well, we had a great visit last time in India. We opened up that new stadium, and I think there were 300,000-400,000 people. It seated like about 150,000, and there were 250,000 outside, and there were 100,000 on the grass. That was, I don't know if that record's ever been broken, but I had a great time in India.
Do you expect India to play any role in West Asia?
Say it.
Do you expect India to play any role in West Asia?
Yeah, I do. I think India plays a big role in everything. As long as he's the leader, India's going to play a big role.
That India has a great friend in United States, in Washington, D.C., in White House, till the time you are president. But some of your decisions recently caused trouble, concern in India. How would you like to assure people of India?
Well, I said it. As long as I'm president, we have a great. They have a great friend in the White House. I don't know where there might have been a trouble, but I don't think so. I can tell you, everyone here, they love India. They have tremendous respect for this man. Tremendous. Go ahead, ma'am.
Are there going to be sanctions that are going to be reimposed on Russia now that the focus is once again being shifted to the Ukraine-Russia war?
We are looking at that. We're seeing how far the price of oil comes down. It's really tumbling. It's, I guess, 74, 75 right now. So it's down. It's soon going to be at the number that it was 4 months ago. It's pretty amazing. And on top of that, we will have an Iran without a nuclear weapon, which I can tell you the Prime Minister feels very strongly about that, too.
What is Mr. President hear from European or G7 leaders?
They were to a leader, and we had G7 plus many others came, as you know. To a leader, they were thrilled. They could not have been happier. Well, this gentleman came, and that's a big get. He came, and they cannot even believe that it happened quickly, but it really didn't happen quickly. It happened. It's been happening for a long time. It's been happening from my first term, when a very evil man named Soleimani was killed. That's when it started. And nobody else did this but Trump. You know, you look at our president, 47 years. Iran took advantage of the world, the Middle East, but the world. Nobody did anything. The Obama deal was one of the dumbest deals I've ever seen. It was a road to a nuclear weapon. My deal is a wall to a nuclear. You're not going to have it. It's a wall to a nuclear weapon.
Minesweepers? Do you want the Europeans to send minesweeper folks?
We don't need them, but if they want to send them, I think it's good.
Has anyone committed to?
Yes, all of them. All of them.
Which nation?
The ones that have that kind of equipment out. But every one of them have committed to being involved in some form.
And at this point, do you feel that Vladimir Putin is more responsible for the ongoing conflict in Ukraine?
Well, I don't want to comment on that because I'm trying to get it settled, and that doesn't make it easy.
Mr. President, you're on the cusp of making history with the possible peace in the Iran conflict.
I like this guy. Do you know who that is? Your reporters are much nicer than my reporters. Go ahead.
But there is also a tragic loss of lives of Indian sailors recently, sir, in American strikes. Any words of condolences for the grieving families? Sir?
Yeah, I do. I heard about that. It's a rough profession. There's no question about it. And we work together on it. This has been happening throughout time, but we work together on it. Yeah, certainly. We love all of those people. They're great people. Yeah, please.
How long do you expect Bill Pulte to be acting DNI?
Well, as long as it takes to get everybody else approved. I mean, they were doing a rush act, and we didn't get anything for it. Look, he's a very legitimate guy. He's very smart. He's a brilliant guy. Look at the job he did at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. I mean, it's worth probably $1 trillion right now. So we put him there, but all of a sudden it was like a rush act by the Democrats. And they said they were going to approve FISA. And I said, but we want FISA approved, but we want the Save America Act approved. Voter ID, proof of citizenship, no mail-in ballots, with exceptions, like for the military, you're sick, you're traveling, disabled. Very, open and generous. We also want no men playing in women's sports, and we want no transgender mutilization of our children. None. Those are 5 things that are 99% that's all we want. It's not a lot. The Save America Act. And that can be passed any way they want to pass it, but I'm not going to sign FISA unless it's done. And this was like a rush act. And it was a rush act by the Democrats. All of a sudden they want to get, and why are they afraid of this guy? I mean, they're so afraid of him. They'll do anything not to have Pulte go in there. He's a very capable guy, and they're worried about that.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am, please.
You said the Iran deal, the text is still being finalized. How confident are you that this Friday signing will happen?
You talking about this one on the deal? Deals are amazing. I've done them all my life. I've gone into deals that were 100% and they don't happen. I've gone into deals that there was no chance of getting them done, and it happens, and they happen easily. So you never know with deals, do you? But you're going to find out pretty soon. I think it'll be done. They want to sign. They want to get back to a normal life. We hit them very hard. Don't forget, people talk about when this started. This didn't start 3-4 months ago. This started years ago when I took out Soleimani. That was a big event. There are those that say it was the biggest event in the Middle East in 50 years. So we took him out, and they became a much different country. And then I terminated the JCPOA, that's Barack Hussein Obama's horrible deal that gave them a nuclear weapon. And I terminated it, and I stopped it. And then I stopped it a second time with the B-2 bombers. And these are all major events in the history of the world, in my opinion, because it prevented them from having a nuclear weapon. And now we're going to do it again, and we're going to see how it works out. So this is a memorandum of understanding, but it's a very strong one. This isn't just like a 2-paragraph. This is a long, pretty detailed memorandum that goes into a regular contract. I would think they would do it. If they don't, then that's okay. We'll have to start the process again. And we don't lose. We have the greatest military in the world. We had the greatest blockade. The naval blockade was 100% effective. And again, they have no Navy. They have no Air Force. All bombed out. I don't want to say the leaders, but first level of leader, gone. Second level of leaders, gone. Some of the third level of leaders, gone. And they want to make a deal. They are so ready to make a deal. Yeah.
Okay, that's what you got from Trump right there. Some of the same stuff he said in the morning around these guys getting a deal. Nebius breaking that 280, Robinhood holding 100, S&P flipping green. Not massively green, but you do have a flip from the lows. SpaceX also trying to get back up to 200, bottomed at around 194 on the dot. Now you're at 199.30. But overall, everything he said was very similar to what he said in the morning, nothing too different. Reaffirming the ties with India. There's obviously been a rocky relationship with India ever since they said they would buy more Russian oil, and Trump was getting them to stop buying Russian oil. Then the price of oil exploded, so they kind of had no choice but to buy more Russian oil. And, they continue to buy that oil because there's a billion people that need energy. But if the price of oil comes down, maybe that also helps them not need to buy from Russia. Nebi is 280.68. 280.68. Pounter, did we break 135? Yep, there you go. So all of SAS getting a flip right here. I think a lot of this pump, once again, it's selective, but it's in anticipation of Warsh. And either he's going to qualify the pump to be legit, Cerebras up 5%, Qualcomm up 2%, Ondas up a little bit, or he's going to make people regret being excited at this moment based on what he says. But honestly, I don't think anyone fully has an idea of how he's going to be. Meta 586 as that continues to go green. All SaaS but Microsoft. Yes, Microsoft and Salesforce. Microsoft, just red candles on top of red candles here, dude. 387.90 as that continues to go down. Why is Nvidia still trending down? All right, guys, be honest here. So I have the first pick in the draft for Saturday. Do I take Nvidia as my first pick? What are people thinking? This will end a year from now, so June of 2027. I'm thinking Nvidia is higher than 207 in June of 2027, and not just 220, 230. I think it's at minimum 250. I don't know how I don't pick it as the first pick. It's the cheapest, most important company on planet Earth. That I know it's been annoying, I get it, but I don't know if that's a thesis to stay away just because it's been stagnant. Not picking Duolingo. Oh my gosh, bro. Half you guys say yes, half you guys say no. I feel like it's gotta be Nvidia. If Nvidia was 230-ish, I would understand and seriously think of not picking it. Because I'd be like, look, it's so big already. It's already such a slow moving company. But at 208, even at 210, 215, I'm is a streak gonna ignore 90% growth for the next year? I feel like you have to. Boom or bust with SpaceX. Dude, to be honest, that might be the winner there, 199. I don't know, man. I want to pick Nvidia. I want to hold on to it. NVIDIA's not going to double. Yeah, but I'm not looking for a double on NVIDIA. But I just think from a risk perspective, I think it's safe. And then from a reward perspective, it is cheap, right? So it doesn't need to double for it to still make a big move. Speaking of NVIDIA, you got the HPE CEO. He's live talking about their partnership with NVIDIA.
AMD Helios is actually Juniper QFX. So that's a big change. But when you go to Sovereign, of course, we are being recognized as a market leader with supercomputers. And then when you go to Enterprise, the differentiation is really our Green Lake and our private cloud offer with all the software we have deeply integrated with NVIDIA. And so there is a huge benefit for customers because there what they care is time to value. To the question you asked me before, can we deploy today? Yes, that's the differentiation.
Okay. And you know, we're just at the beginning of this agentic age, but I think you're introducing tools specifically to detect and roll back rogue agent actions. That sounds scary, first of all. I don't even know exactly what that means, but is that happening? And are there any examples in terms of customers who you're providing something to help combat rogue agents?
Yeah. Well, you want to provide agents guardrails.
HPE was a name that has doubled, so finding those types of gems obviously would be better, but you also have to take a little bit more risk, assuming they're going to go up. Nebius 281. Does it have a date with 300, folks? Robinhood 101.40 actually holding above 100, which is exciting to see. I know it's pre-Warsh, but maybe that's an indication. The Qs as well, flipping green again. AMD 520. I don't hate AMD either. I think I might have it available for me, though, as my second pick. Steve's not picking it. I don't think Matt's picking it. I really don't think Jason picks it. I definitely don't think Chris or Tanner are picking it. I think Tanner would take CoreWeave. Chris is going to take ServiceNow. I think I might have AMD available for me. But I don't know. AMD might end up outperforming NVIDIA again as well. ARM, that's up 6%. Micron, that's up 1.6%. By the way, the reason all these semis are up today is because of Intel. Intel's begun risk production of 18AP, its most advanced chip node. That was announced this morning. The node is designed to deliver up to 9% higher performance or 18% lower than 18A with at least 20% better heat resistance. That is why KLAC, ASML, ENTG, Lam Research, and Applied Materials are all up on the day. It's on that Intel headline. So that is actually the reason you're seeing some of those parts of semis really get a nice bid here. 121 on Mr. Intel. SanDisk, is that still down? That's still down. Interesting. It's a weird day. You've got some really small companies, high beta, getting up. You got your Max 7s tanking again. SpaceX going red. Some software names are up, like a Palantir. Other names like Shopify, Microsoft down. Some of the space names are up. Other ones are down. And then Apple at 300. Yeah, RXT, we talked about them yesterday. They had the AMD partnership. That one had a big day yesterday, then kind of got dumped, and then kind of getting a lot more of that momentum here today. So that one making a very nice move. RXT, Rackspace has a partnership with Palantir as well. They announced it in February. So they've actually been doing really well with the on-prem data centers. Rocket Lab right there, 108.77 as well. I've been saying it's a weird day for the past 2 months. It's been a weird 2 months. Well, the thing is, I feel like after the war ended, everyone just expected pure blistering green. The problem is the war ended into a SpaceX IPO, which really is shaking up different parts of the market. And it's ending into a Kevin Warsh Fed meeting, which is also, making people question exactly what's happening with this new Fed. Nebius 282, Robinhood potentially 102 on deck. Nebius and Hoodie making the move today. Lunar's up, Redwire's up. CoreWeave lost 120, but still holding on. Do you think the market drops at the Fed meeting? I think anything could happen at the Fed meeting. And when we saw this happen, I think it was like 4 months ago where we pumped hard and then Jay Powell spoke. Yeah, this was back in, this happened. I definitely remember the December one. I'm not sure exactly if it happened in March. We were kind of down for the Iran war stuff. But in December, we pumped hard in the day. And then Jay Powell just wasn't as definitive on the idea of getting cuts. And again, Warsh is expected to be, not that much of a hawk. So as long as he follows through, I think we're going to be okay, even if he's not explicit about it. Intel 121. There you go, hoodie 102. There she is. There she is. So again, World Cup, that's helping. Rate cuts, that's helping. Prediction markets, that's helping. The layoffs, that's probably helping. And a bunch of different catalysts, short-term. Same thing with Nebius, all these different pieces of news about token generation. That's helping the neoclouds a lot. The CME Fed group is still saying probabilities are 99.6 that we do nothing. And then in December, the probabilities are now, December is still pricing in a hike, guys. So he's going to have to say enough stuff to flip that pricing in of a hike, I think, for us to really get going here. Webull, yeah, this one also breaking out. Webull, look at that, $7, $6.98 right there. The pattern day trading rules also, super freaking bullish for the brokerages, as they've been able to get a lot more trading. Trump on Venezuela. We paid for the cost of the war 40 times. We had a great meeting on AI. Trump says Anthropic talks are going fine. It looks like they'll be meeting with Anthropic's leadership in the White House next week to get Fable 5 unbanned. So it doesn't seem like it's crazy to imagine that happening. Oh, wow. Allbirds. Remember that company that turned into an AI company? Well, we got another rebrand here. And the rebrand is that Allbirds is now turning into SmartBird.
Also appointing a new CEO as well. A reminder, this company's market cap is tiny. But I do remember that day because nothing reminded me more of the .com period than that press release
We're going
where
from
they
a
did
shoe
raise, I
company
think
to
it
an
was as
AI
much as
company?
$50 million in a convertible to try and pull this all off.
It is one of those moments that is cited by. I was at a conference, iConnections, last week with Seth Klarman on stage, and he was saying, I asked him, "Do you think we're in a bubble?" And he said, it wasn't definitive, but there are signs, and one of those signs he points to is when Allbirds went from sneaker company to AI company.
Without a doubt, and the stock soared, of course, on that day because it was basically bankrupt, right? It was.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little reminiscent also of when companies converted to crypto, treasury companies a little bit.
But it did remind me. I mean, there was one I don't even remember, a refrigeration company that one day announced, now we're a .com company. This was 96, 97.
And the stock surged.
And the stock surged, and there were so many of them. But we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, you cover footwear, but I guess I don't know if you'll be.
They sold all the footwear assets.
That's right.
And the brand, the Allbirds brand.
SmartBird. I mean, again, this is the shit you don't really want to see, but it's up 22%. Look at that. Up 22%. Just SmartBird. They hired a former AWS executive as well as the CEO. The company said in April it's shifting its focus to offer cloud computing capacity and AI services, leading to more than 5-fold surge in its shares. The company said it expanded its convertible finance agreement to $100 million from $50, so they're raising another $50 million. With a differentiated strategy, significant capital, and the opportunity to build an exceptional team, we are uniquely positioned to capitalize on one of the most significant infrastructure opportunities of the next decade. Okay. Allbirds. Market cap on this is $40 million. So again, if it goes to zero, not a big deal, but it is a smaller company. SpaceX, once again, red candles coming in down. NVIDIA, red candle again. Microsoft, red candle again. As these names go red. Keel also did a rebrand. And the thing is, Keel had data center capacity, though. And the Bitcoin miners to AI HPC transition has happened many times. A shoe company turning into a data center play was just something new. I haven't seen that in a while. JP Morgan raised Broadcom to 580 today. Okay, so this is the other pick for next year that I think is likely going to do well. I've been trying to go deeper into Broadcom's numbers, trying to understand the business better. Yeah, today, 500 to 580. Average price target on the street for Broadcom is 516. So the bulls right there are not slowing down on their bullishness. Nebius average street price target, by the way, is 235. Obviously, the stock well above that price target right now. What if Crocs pivots? Crocs is actually, how's their stock doing this year? They are, yeah, they're not having a bad year. They're up 47%. They've had a rebrand in a lot of different ways. They've been able to actually sell their shoes. But Broadcom's up. Yeah, Keel has 3.3 gigawatts potential. That's my thing. It's like Allbirds. I don't know if they have anything of that nature. But it obviously is still up there. Do you like Celsius here? You know, I've never enjoyed Celsius as a drink, which is part of the reason I've never been into the story. We were talking with Jason about it last night. He likes the coconut water theme, and he thinks that's expanding more. I really don't like the drink. I've tried a Celsius. Like, I mean, again, I think the Alani Nu acquisition made sense. I think they're branding into gym lifestyle makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the PepsiCo distribution issues last year were part of the reason this thing took a hit. I just never liked the actual drink itself. And that's not a reason to not invest. It's just personally, I didn't enjoy it. But I don't know. I just think there's so many other opportunities in AI to be excited about consumer discretionary. Unless there's like a real exciting story. Like Sweetgreen, right? The only reason you'd be excited about that if there was like a real trend happening to re-rate Sweetgreen. Outside of that, you know, there's just so many other names that are excited. HUD, maybe we're normalizing 100. I mean, it's only been a day. It's only been a day, but you did have a lot of insider buying over the past 2 weeks. I mean, you would imagine they were not buying because they thought it would go down, which also makes me confident that maybe if Warsh is good enough here, we can at least normalize the 90s. And then, you know, given HUD tends to move like crazy, 100 is not that crazy to also stay there. Nike, is that still up? No, Nike's, well, Nike flipped a little bit. Intel, that's still up 3 as well. Financial Times, graduates are flooding back to business school as weak job markets delay careers. Tough job markets pushes graduates into finance master programs. I think this has been happening for a while, this idea of getting your MBA or going back to business school. I mean, quite frankly, it's a way to push out getting a job and trying to get more qualified for one. But it could also be indicative of the fact that there's not as many jobs that are out there. U.S. officials, as per Axios, remain wary of an Iran deal as questions grow over Tehran's intentions. Axios says U.S. officials are warning Trump that he is skeptical Iran will honor nuclear concessions. Friday is going to be important, folks. We got to get them to sign that Geneva deal. I think Iran working with China again is more bullish than not. It means they're ready to move on from this. But I think that's also why Trump said in these press conferences today that if they don't sign the deal, you know, we'll just go back to bombing them, because he wants to reinforce that they need to follow these parts of the deal. I have an MBA. I think it's overrated. It's more about building a network than the actual degree. Yeah, I mean, again, it's interesting because this job environment is, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, how much is an MBA going to be respected? How much are companies going to be willing to pay for people to get their MBAs? Just have a very, very changing dynamic of how work in general is happening. Microsoft loses 387, now lows of the day at 386. Friday, the market is closed, but they still will be signing the deal on Friday. I have a JD engineering degree and MBA. MBA is a joke. It was so easy. That's crazy. JD engineering and MBA. How long did it take to get all that? That's wild. It's a lot of degrees. It's a lot of degrees. Is Microsoft value now? Yeah, it is. I don't want to sound like a broken record saying, I mean, like, we all know it is, right? There's nothing new to say about this. It's just, I think that pivot to 470 and back down to 380 scared a lot of people because it was like, oh, this thing can't hold it. Like, this thing really can't hold it. At least Google's been able to hold it. And when it recovers, it doesn't give back as much of what it lost. Is Google still down 2% today, but, not at that 350 price. SPY, did we go red? SPY, whoa, that was a nasty red candle right there. That was literally, that was in like 5 seconds, dude. 1050 all the way down to 1049.50. Or sorry, 750. Is Hood still holding 102? Hood is impressively holding 102. Nebius is impressively holding 280. At least in the short term right here. AMD also still holding 519. SoFi got a hit from 1840 to 1820, but that's still up. Yeah, again, these jitters on SPY, 50 cents, 80 cents back and forth, which is a pretty big move, almost a dollar move. That's got to be Warsh. SPY just lost VWAP, and SPY lost the lower band of its VWAP. You're seeing a lot of sellers come in right here. Yeah, fresh lows for the day. These are the lows of yesterday, actually. So yesterday was 749.50. If we lose 749.50, we are taking out yesterday's lows. If not, this is where you might have enough stop losses and buyers coming in to buy up right here. I think a little weakness into Warsh is good. It gives some room for a pump, hopefully not a waterfall. Yeah, that's usually, that's the thing I forgot to mention today. It's good for us to have some weakness into Warsh because then you have room for the market to make a move. As NVIDIA loses 207. I mean, you don't want to be, blistering green and then Warsh says something that completely fakes out the market. Amazon just about to lose 240, dude. This is crazy. Every day, Meta 582. Goodness gracious. Goodness freaking gracious here. When is the Saturday live stream? It should be at like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. for the draft. It'll be later at night. My wife just got her MBA. I think it was worth the effort, but I need her to get interested in trading. Yeah, I mean, look, I think an MBA is valuable if you know you're going to get a job with the MBA, your company's paying for your MBA, or you genuinely feel like you're going to be in corporate America for a long time and want to climb up the corporate ladder. And sometimes you just need those degrees to be able to be there. Obviously, if you're doing it to learn about business, I think there's a lot of other ways to learn about business without needing an MBA's knowledge, but I don't think it's an intrinsically bad thing. I just think there has to be a purpose associated with getting it. 291 on Mr. Marvell. How tall are you, Amit? 5'10"? When I wear the right boots, we push 5'10", So as long as you see me in the winter, I'm 5'10". That's why I don't go out in the summer. But in the winter, we're doing what we need to do. Amit is lying. He's 5'6". I met him. Okay, I'm not 5'6", bro. All right, I am 5'7", if we're being honest. But there's a difference between 5'6" and 5'7". I'm telling you, there's a difference between 5'6" and 5'7", and I am 5'7". I've met plenty of people that are 5'6". I know there's a difference between 5'7" and 5'6". That extra inch really, really is relevant. 5'5" and 5'6", not that big of a deal. 5'4", 5'5", not. But 5'7", and then with the boots, it's really 5'8". It's not 5'10", but it's really 5'8". But I'm absolutely not 5'6". Absolutely not below 5'6". 100% it's 5'7". 100%. I'm telling you, it is 5'7". It's cope. It's not cope. It's 5'7". That's why he wears socks with sandals, needs to hide his lips. Dude, I've never done that. Like, there's all these products where you could put like a thing in your sneaker and like you just like naturally get taller. I've never been that insecure. But like, man, it would be nice to have that boost. It would be. We did have Technical Tuesday yesterday. That is correct. Admit I'm 5'3", so you're taller than me. It's all good. Yeah, but Tesla Granny, you're a girl. That's the problem. Girls can be short. That's okay. It's guys that it's tough when you're a short king. It's tough when you have all the personality and you want to take over the world and you want to be that guy and then you're trying to be him. Like you're really trying to be him. And everyone's looking down at you trying to be him. Like that's the hard part. It really is the toughest part about being a guy if you're short. It's like you want to be a man, take over the world as Robin Hood tries to approach 103, and then everyone just looks at you like a short king. That's the issue. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm just going to be honest, I personally wouldn't want my girlfriend to be taller than me. Like I don't know, dude. It's weird. Some people are cool with that. That's fine. But like me, I would really appreciate at least being at my level or a bit shorter. Which 5'7" is most girls are not taller than 5'7". So 5'7" is reasonable. Except then they want to wear the heels. And it's like, okay, now I'm looking up at you. But 5'4", 5'5", that's perfect. Okay, are we still red? We are still pretty much red. Microsoft, goodness gracious, 385 as that continues to go down. Keel having a nice day. Meta, 583, new low. Amazon still at lows. Snapchat still at lows. Shopify, new lows for the day. Nebius, Hood, CoreWeave, Rocket Lab taking all the green from the market. Nebius, 283. Hood, almost 103. And Rocket Lab touching 108. As it continues to be green. SpaceX, did we lose 95? 195? Wow, 192, 191. Okay, there she goes. Did the buyer step in right here, or is this taking a dump? Yeah, it hasn't really touched 200 ever since it lost it at around 10 o'clock. It's been about an hour. Has not really. Oh, SPY just whoa. Ugly. That looks like a news candle. Look at that. That looks like a news candle. It might not be. Again, it might just be Warsh volatility. That one just took out the lows from yesterday. So we need some people to step in right here if we're going to make a move higher. Hood and Nebius still holding on. Pretty freaking resilient. Oil spiking. Is oil spiking? Yeah, 78. That is a spike. I don't see any news. Again, we got Warsh coming up. I really think this is usually what happens on a Warsh day. Yeah, I see no news. Trump's not live. Not seeing anything there. It seemed like a news candle, but Trump is not talking. No, nothing there. Let me get the real-time price of oil. Oil is crude is right now. Oh wow, crude's actually making a move. That's 4% on crude. That's a couple more bucks. You're at 80. That actually is a pretty big move. Brent's above 81 already. VIX just spiked as well. Yeah, I think this is Warsh, dude. This has got to be Warsh. This is what's expected with Warsh. Trump said he'll restart the war if the deal falls through. Yeah, he said that in the morning, though. I don't know if that really affected much of the market here. Dude, the 2x long and 2x short SpaceX ETFs are in the top 10 stocks that are trending today. Wow. And then you have another SpaceX long ETF, and then you have SpaceX itself. So SpaceX has 4 out of the top 10 categories. The others are Rackspace, Western Digital, ASTS, Snapchat, Micron, and Netflix. Goodness, bro. SpaceX 191, bounced at 190.5. Oil reserve news came out. The crude inventories came out 20 minutes ago, though. So I don't think that's it. Crude inventories fell 8.2 million barrels. The estimate was 4.5. Obviously, that was a big miss. But it's not like the market didn't know that refineries are having problems right now. EIA crude inventory is negative 1.6 million. Street thought it would be negative 800,000. So yeah, that wasn't pretty, but that also was a while ago. Robina, there she goes, 103. Okay. Maybe we're normalizing the hundo. Maybe. Got to get through Warsh, but man, is it nice to see triple digits. It has been 7 long months of seeing this thing get absolutely brutalized. I think 65 was the low. It was 63.52 on April 2nd. Pretty, I mean, if you bought the lows, almost up 80% from there. And then Nebius as well, 282. That one's moving. Both of them really getting some love right here. SPY, yeah, still trying to bounce 749. China's foreign minister says China supports Iran's reasonable, legitimate claims and its efforts in safeguarding its own sovereignty. Okay, so China continuing to cooperate here with the Chinese. China's foreign minister says issue of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz should be properly addressed. I don't think there's any news on Nebius. It's really all this token news we've been seeing around tokens getting cheaper and more distributed. Like, all of that is amazing for the neoclouds. Like, it's not good if OpenAI and Anthropic have a full-on monopoly of how tokens are generated. Like, you really need it to be dispersed. Roman did a good job talking about that on a podcast the other week. And I think you're kind of seeing that in a lot of headlines. The Microsoft Copilot headlines was one of the biggest ones yesterday. Now, again, you got the Jim Chanos argument about these companies are glorified REITs, which, like, conceptually you can say that's true, but practically what they're doing and how relevant they are in processing compute, which is the new oil, makes them a lot more valuable. Along with the fact that they're growing like crazy. I mean, what is Nebius's ARR projected for next year? It's like 20 billion. I know it's like 9 billion this year. But, like, I mean, you get to those levels. Wow, Hood, 104. She has not had a day like this in a long time. It's been a while since the street bid up Hood like this. It has been a freaking while. But here it is. Mate, what do you think of Hood 120 calls for next Friday? I mean, look, you would have to flip it quickly if you buy it here, because Hood would have to. I don't think Hood gets to 120 by next Friday. If it does, I wouldn't be too upset, but you could probably get a flip if it goes from 104 to like 108 and potentially double or triple on that call. It's just, you know, your expiration is really soon. But it's moving here. It's going. SoFi, is that going as well? SoFi a little less aggressive today, but still above 1830. I mean, when Hood goes, it goes. If this thing were actually to get back up to 120, it would be pretty incredible. But you are seeing it make a move right here. I do think 120 is a little aggressive, though. Josh Brown pitched Hood yesterday. Yeah, I mean, the other, I think the thematic of just brokerages benefiting from all this volatility, that's probably another reason the street's easily buying Webull, IBKR, Hood, etc. Once again, it's sustaining the earnings growth that's going to be necessary with tough comps. But that's more of an earnings issue, a narrative-wise issue, which was tied to Bitcoin primarily. Wow, Microsoft loses 385. That whole Bitcoin narrative is done for Hood. I mean, look at Bitcoin. If Hood was trading with Bitcoin, Hood would be a 73, 74. We are well above that. So I think the street's moved on from the crypto pegging, which I just think is incredibly bullish. Nebius 285, as that continues to make a move. Let's green. Keel 640, that is also green. So your neo clouds are coming to life here today. Iran also at 60. I mean, a lot of these brokerages and neo. I think it's a brokerage and neo cloud type of day. Spy's red. Hood's up. CoreWeave's up. Nebius is up. Nvidia, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Google, all red. Like 2 to 3% red. SaaS all red except for a few names. It's brokerages and neo clouds kind of carrying the weight today. Okay, folks, that's what we got. Not too bad. It's very nice to see at least some of this price action move to the upside. I will be back at 2:15. We will have the Fed chair, Mr. Kevin Warsh. Got to be ready for the volatility. Maybe he says something that takes us all the way down, or maybe he says something that really breaks us out into all-time highs. I think the SPY is waiting for that. Obviously, other names are front-running it right here. But this is going to be important, especially as some of these names are at levels that they either saw months ago or they haven't seen in history, like a Nebius. 287, SpaceX 192, Robinhood 104.40. Robinhood continues to make that move higher. And then Microsoft continues to go down. All right, we'll be back with Kevin Warsh. Let's do word of the day. And yeah, 2:15, I'll be live. We'll get the announcement at 2:30. It'll officially begin. And it'll just go into the market close. And I mean, it's a big one. It's a big one for him to set the stage for Fed policy and how the Fed's going to operate over the next 6 years. So we'll see really how the market ultimately thinks of it. Okay, here we go. Word of the day. I think I've heard this word before. Quotidian. Of or occurring every day, ordinary or commonplace. Success is usually built through quotidian habits, not extraordinary bursts of efforts. I've definitely heard this word before. Feels like it's a common word. Quotidian. Let's see if we get this right.
Quotidian.
Okay, there we go. This just feels like an intellectual word. Of or occurring every day, ordinary, commonplace. It's the old saying that success is built through the boring stuff and the consistency of every day. All right, folks, that's what we got. Bird is up 42%. Why not? It's a smart bird today. I'll be back on the close, which will start 2 hours early. So be a big one. We're going to have to see what Warsh says, and hopefully, I think it's going to be a bit dove. I think he's going to be a dove. I don't think there's going to be any reason for him to be bearish, especially with the oil coming down, but time will tell in a couple hours. We'll see where it goes from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys in a couple hours. I'll be back with Kevin Warsh, 2:15. All right, everybody. Have a good one.